Hello everyone! Welcome to our animated philosophy series where we explore timeless concepts in a modern context. Today we'll explore two of Edmund Husserl's most profound and foundational ideas, intentionality and time consciousness. These concepts are central to understanding how we perceive the world, and they help clarify not just what consciousness is, but how it functions on a moment-to-moment basis. Let's start with intentionality, a term that, in philosophical terms, doesn't mean what we might casually associate with intention or being intentional in everyday speech. Instead, intentionality, according to Husserl, refers to the idea that consciousness is always about something. In other words, our minds are always directed towards an object, whether it's something physical, like a cup, or something abstract, like a concept or memory. To make this clearer, let's look at a practical example. Imagine you're sitting at a desk, looking at a coffee cup. At first glance, you may think, it's just a cup. But Husserl would prompt us to dig deeper. What happens when you shift contexts? When you're tired and about to take a sip, you might see that same cup as a source of energy and comfort. At a different moment, perhaps in an art class, you might see it as a still life subject, focusing on its curves, shadows, and shapes. Even in moments of stress, that cup may remind you of a conversation with a friend, turning it into a symbol of connection. This shows us that consciousness doesn't merely perceive the world passively, it actively engages with and interprets the world based on context. The same object, the coffee cup, becomes a different experience depending on the circumstances. Consciousness, then, isn't just aware, it is intentionally directed toward these shifting aspects of reality. Let's move into a second major aspect of Husserl's thought, time consciousness. Time consciousness explains how we experience the flow of time as a unified phenomenon. Rather than thinking of time as isolated, disconnected moments, like snapshots in an album, Husserl proposes that time is experienced as a continuous flow. He breaks down this experience of time into three essential components: retention, primal impression, and protention. Let's dive into these. First, retention is how we hold on to the immediate past, but it's not the same as memory, which recalls distant events. Retention is the lingering impression of just past moments. For example, when you listen to a melody, you don't hear each note in isolation. The note that just played lingers in your consciousness, allowing you to connect it with the present note. Without retention, each sound would feel disconnected, and the melody wouldn't make sense. Next is the primal impression. This is your experience of the now, the sharp, vivid sense of the present moment. Using the melody example again, the note you are hearing right now is what primal impression captures. It's your immediate perception of what is happening at this exact second. Finally, there is protention. Protention is our anticipation of what's about to happen. It's a forward-looking aspect of consciousness. When you're listening to that same melody, you're not just aware of the current note and the ones you've already heard, you're also anticipating what comes next. Based on the rhythm or melody, your mind predicts the continuation of the song, creating a smooth, flowing experience. What makes Husserl's theory of time consciousness so remarkable is that it shows how these three processes, retention, primal impression, and protention, are constantly intertwined. When you listen to a melody, you're not trapped in an eternal present moment. Instead, you hold on to the immediate past, experience the present, and anticipate the future all at once. Time is experienced as a flow, not as a sequence of disconnected events. This model helps explain why we perceive the world as a coherent whole, not as fragmented bits of experience. Imagine if you could only live in the primal impression, only aware of the present moment. You wouldn't be able to make sense of things like music, conversations, or even daily activities. Everything would feel disjointed. But because we have retention and protention working alongside the primal impression, we can navigate time fluidly, understanding how past, present, and future are all woven together in our conscious experience. So how do intentionality and time consciousness come together in our everyday lives? Think about your morning routine. You wake up, you get out of bed. Maybe you reach for your phone or start thinking about breakfast. Your actions are directed at particular objects or goals, like the alarm clock or the thought of your breakfast, demonstrating intentionality. But alongside that, your sense of time is constantly working in the background. You recall the sound of the alarm that just rang a moment ago, retention. You're aware of your current physical state, primal impression, and you anticipate what comes next, like what you'll have for breakfast, protention. Together, intentionality and time consciousness are what make your experience of the world feel seamless and continuous. Husserl's analysis helps us realize that our experience isn't a series of disconnected snapshots, it's a deeply interconnected flow of objects and time, continuously shaped by the relationship between the past, present, and future. By breaking down these components of our experience, Husserl provides us with powerful tools for understanding how we navigate and interpret reality. We are not passive observers simply receiving information from the world. Instead, our consciousness is active, constantly engaged in shaping our experience, not just in relation to time but in the way we approach and interact with everything around us. And with that, we've covered the core ideas of intentionality and time consciousness. By recognizing how our consciousness is directed towards objects and how we experience time as a continuous flow, we gain a richer understanding of our everyday experiences. Thank you for learning with us. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights into similar echoes.